10 grand. Imagine just dropping 10 grand into a company, right? And then boom, a decade later, you're looking at something close to 100,000. That's the kind of wild ride Intuitive Surgical has been on.
It's really incredible, isn't it?
Over 800% surge in value. We're talking serious numbers here. You know what? You're the one who wanted to dig into this company specifically, so we're right there with you. We're doing the deep dive today.
Wow, let's get into it.
This isn't just about chasing those crazy returns, though. It's about really unpacking what this company's all about. Is Intuitive Surgical the future of surgery? Or is this hype, a bubble ready to burst? What do you think?
What really gets me about Intuitive Surgical is how they're kind of like rewriting the book on surgery. We're not just talking about dollars and cents here. This is about really pushing the limits of what's possible in medicine.
Absolutely. So, just to bring everyone up to speed, Intuitive Surgical, they're the folks behind that famous Da Vinci surgical system, founded back in 1995. But before we get ahead of ourselves, those returns, we got to talk about them. Their stock performance has been out of this world, basically.
It really has.
Nearly 9 times the return in a decade. The S&P 500 is like eating their dust.
When you see a 9-fold return like that in such a short time frame, it really tells you what investors are expecting. And it all comes down to their price to earnings ratio, right?
Right.
And that's sitting at a whopping 70 right now. Basically, the market's saying Intuitive Surgical's earnings are going to explode in the next few years.
Wow, a PE of 70. It's like they've got to grow 7 times faster than a company with a PE of 10 to even keep up. That's a pretty bold statement from the market. Yeah. So what's the secret sauce? What's the tech behind this market confidence? What makes the Da Vinci system so revolutionary?
Well, picture this. A surgeon operating, but their instruments are way more precise than any human hand could ever be. That's the Da Vinci in action.
Right.
The surgeon's at a console, they're controlling robotic arms, and get this, they're seeing a 3D magnified view of the entire surgical field. Oh, and it gets even cooler. Some of these models even have haptic feedback, so surgeons can actually feel what those robotic instruments are touching. It's pretty wild.
That's incredible. I mean, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction. But this is happening right now in operating rooms. And this real-world application, that's what leads us to the patient benefits, right?
Yeah, and that's where the real impact is. I mean, think about it. That kind of precision. It means fewer complications for the patient, less blood loss, way less pain after surgery. And patients recover faster. It's a win-win.
It's like, forget your old rusty tools. We're giving you this state-of-the-art workshop, right? Everything's just smoother, more control. Definitely less invasive for the patient, which is what we want.
Right, exactly. And this minimally invasive approach, it's opening up so many doors, like procedures that used to be super risky or even impossible with traditional surgery. Now they're on the table. We're talking about operating in really delicate areas with faster recovery times. Potentially, the outcomes are even better.
It really changes the game for surgeons, for patients, everyone. But okay, I want to shift gears just a bit here. We got to talk about China. Our research pointed to China as this huge potential market, but it seems like there might be some hurdles for Intuitive Surgical there too. What's the deal?
Yeah, it's that classic China conundrum, On the one hand, their healthcare system, they're all about adopting cutting-edge tech like this stuff. But then you've got the government. They're pouring money into building up their own homegrown medical tech industry.
Oh, I see.
So what's happened, they've approved a bunch of local competitors to the Da Vinci. So that's the challenge.
Okay, so how do we make sense of this? Is this a legitimate threat to Intuitive Surgical's, top dog status? Or is it just a small bump in the road?
It's definitely a challenge. I mean, Intuitive Surgical, they're not taking this lightly. They're looking at different ways to play this, Maybe even setting up manufacturing in China itself to deal with these policies. But here's the thing. The global market for surgical robotics, it's massive, and it's growing fast. This isn't just about one country. The demand is everywhere.
That's a good point. It's easy to get laser focused on one problem and forget about the bigger picture. And speaking of the bigger picture, there's something about Intuitive Surgical's whole business model, their strategy, that a lot of people miss.
You're talking about their recurring revenue, right?
Yeah, exactly. That seems to be a big part of their success.
Absolutely. It's not just, here's a Da Vinci, go have fun with it. It's the whole ecosystem they've created. Maintenance, obviously, that's ongoing. Then you've got your disposable instruments, software updates. They've got a whole training program for surgeons. It's smart. All of that, it adds up to a really stable, predictable income stream.
It's like a subscription service, yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of just a one-time purchase. That's got to be attractive in the healthcare world.
That's changed so fast.
Oh, for sure. And the numbers back it up too. Most of their revenue, we're talking maybe 80%, it comes from those recurring streams. This model, it's like a safety net. Investors love that kind of stability, that predictability. It justifies those price to earnings multiples we were talking about earlier. Yeah, those big ones. So it's not just about building a fancy palace that might fall apart, right? It's about like a really well-fortified castle. They're in it for the long game.
So let me ask you straight up. You're our expert.
Yeah.
Why are you so bullish on Intuitive Surgical? Why is this more than just hype?
Right, right. It's not hype, it's a judgment call based on the data. There are a few things that make me optimistic. First off, the market itself, surgical robotics, it's about to blow up, right?
Yeah.
Some estimates say it could grow 5 times bigger in the next 10 years. That's huge. Yeah. And Intuitive Surgical, they're in the perfect position. They've got the experience, the name recognition to take advantage of that growth.
We're talking about riding a tidal wave here, and Intuitive Surgical is in the driver's seat. It's a pretty sweet spot to be in, no doubt about it. And that brings me to my second point. Remember those recurring revenue streams. That's their safety net. Even if new system sales slow down, they've got this steady income coming in. Investors love that, and it explains those big price-to-earnings multiples.
It's like having a loyal fan base in a world of one-hit wonders. So they've got the smart business model, but can their tech keep up? What about innovation?
That's my third point, and it's a big one. Yeah. Intuitive Surgical, they're not just sitting back counting their money. They're investing heavily in R&D, pushing the envelope, you know? We're talking AI-assisted surgery, telesurgery, even more intuitive robot controls. They're not just keeping up, they're shaping the future of surgery.
It's like they're playing 3D chess while everyone else is still figuring out checkers. But innovation takes money, right? Can they afford to stay ahead of the game?
That's the fourth point, and the answer is a resounding yes. Their financials are rock solid. Zero debt, billions in cash on hand. That gives them the flexibility to invest, buy up promising startups, basically outmaneuver the competition.
That's a pretty powerful position to be in. Sounds almost unfair, right? But even with all that going for them, there's always competition. Every story has its rivals.
You're right. No one's invincible. That brings us to my fifth and final point, the competition. Sure, there are other players emerging, but surgical robotics is a tough field to break into. Years of research, regulatory hurdles, building trust with hospitals and surgeons, it's a long game. Intuitive Surgical has a massive head start, and they've built a pretty impressive moat around their business.
So let's sum this up. We've got a company with revolutionary technology. They're poised to dominate a market that's about to explode. Their business model is a cash machine. They're pouring resources into innovation, and they've got a serious competitive edge. It sounds like a slam dunk, right? But here's the catch. Every investment has risks. And when a stock has already skyrocketed like Intuitive Surgical, well, those risks are amplified.
Absolutely. Remember that PE ratio of 70. That tells us the market has already priced in a lot of success. If they stumble, if growth slows down, any unexpected challenges, the stock price could take a hit.
So what's the takeaway for you, the listener? Do you think Intuitive Surgical can live up to those massive expectations? Can they stay on top in a field that's constantly evolving? Those are the questions you've got to ask yourself as you do your own research.
And don't forget, the world of surgery never stands still. New companies will pop up, ethical considerations can change the game, and the technology itself is always evolving.
It's an exciting story, and the ending is still being written. That's the beauty of these deep dives. We give you the information, the different perspectives, and you get to draw your own conclusions. We hope this deep dive into Intuitive Surgical has given you a lot to think about. And remember, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and keep diving deep into the world around you.